Ryan Caldwell stood up abruptly in the middle of a Fairfax County courtroom and pointed directly at his wife. His voice rang out clearly and loudly. "You are worthless trash, Kendra. You were nothing before me, and you will be nothing after me." His attorney grabbed his arm, but Ryan shook him off with contempt. Dr. Kendra Ellis sat across the aisle with her hands folded. She did not flinch. She did not respond. The judge stared in shock. The court reporter's fingers froze above the keys. The entire room held its breath. And nobody, not Ryan, not his lawyer, not a single person in that gallery, had any idea that Kendra's mother was already in the parking lot. Her mother, a federal judge. Have you ever watched a man destroy his entire life with his own mouth? He really just said all that out loud. Let us see how this plays out. Let me take you back to that morning in Arlington, Virginia. The alarm buzzed in a small, one-bedroom apartment on the third floor of a red brick building. Nothing fancy, just clean countertops and a coffee maker already set on a timer. The smell of dark roast filled the kitchen before Kendra Ellis even opened her eyes. She sat up on the edge of the bed, rubbed her face with both hands, and took a deep breath. This was her life now since she moved out of the house she had paid for, sleeping alone in an apartment that could fit inside her old living room, surrounded by quiet. She preferred the quiet. Kendra walked to the bathroom, brushed her teeth, and pulled her hair back into a low bun. She stared at herself in the mirror for a long moment, not out of vanity, but out of something closer to a silent pep talk. Today was the day. On the kitchen counter sat a stack of medical files. Kendra was a pediatric cardiac surgeon at Georgetown University Hospital, one of the youngest department leads in the hospital's history. Howard University undergrad, Johns Hopkins Medical School. A Rhodes Scholar plaque hung on the wall next to the front door. The only decoration she had bothered to unpack. Next to the coffee maker sat a framed photograph. A tall, silver-haired black woman in judicial robes beamed as she pinned a medical badge onto a younger Kendra's white coat. That woman was Judge Gloria Ellis, United States Court of Appeals, D.C. Circuit, 30 years on the federal bench, twice shortlisted for the Supreme Court. That woman was Kendra's mother. Kendra picked up the photo, ran her thumb across the glass, set it back down, and poured her coffee. She did not call her mother that morning. Gloria had said she had a conflict on her calendar and could not make it to the hearing. Kendra told her it was fine. She meant it. She had handled worse things alone. Kendra married Ryan Caldwell. They met at a charity gala in Georgetown. He was charming, confident, wore a nice suit, and laughed at all the right moments. He pursued her with the kind of energy that felt flattering at first. It stopped being flattering fast. Ryan started making comments. Small ones at first, a joke about her hair, a remark about her neighborhood growing up, a laugh when she mentioned her family's church in Southeast D.C. Then the jokes stopped being jokes. "You are lucky I married you," he said during an argument about dishes. "That degree does not change what you are," he whispered one night after dinner with his parents. His mother had spent the entire evening calling Kendra so articulate. Behind closed doors, he called her ghetto when she raised her voice. He called her aggressive when she disagreed. He told her she should be grateful. Every single day, he found a new way to make her feel small. She endured it quietly, the way she had been taught, with dignity, with patience, with the hope that people could change. They do not. She filed for divorce. Ryan laughed when he got the papers, actually laughed. Then he hired the most aggressive attorney he could find and told anyone who would listen that Kendra had used him and thrown him away. The divorce dragged on. Ryan wanted half of everything. The house Kendra paid for, the cars in her name, the investment accounts funded by her surgical bonuses. His attorney, Gregory Sloan, filed motion after motion, subpoenaed her colleagues, demanded financial records, turning a straightforward divorce into warfare. Ryan's mother, Claire Caldwell, even submitted a written declaration. She called Kendra difficult and ungrateful. She wrote that Kendra had never truly fit in with the family. The language was careful. The meaning was clear. But Kendra's attorney, Diane Foster, was ready. She had spent time building a case file that read like a textbook on domestic abuse. Text messages, voicemails, bank records. Everything was documented. Everything was admissible. Now Kendra stood in front of her closet. She chose a navy blazer, simple gold earrings, and flat shoes. She looked professional. She looked calm. Inside, her stomach was in knots. She grabbed her keys, locked the apartment door, and drove to Fairfax County Family Court. Her brother, Derek Ellis, a retired Marine, was already there, sitting in the gallery, saving her a seat with his jacket draped over the chair beside him. Her mother's seat stayed empty. The courtroom filled. The bailiff called the room to order. Judge Elizabeth Moore entered and took the bench. The hearing began. Gregory Sloan stood up first. He buttoned his jacket with one hand and walked toward the center of the courtroom like he owned it. Mid-50s, silver watch, hair slicked back, the kind of lawyer who practiced his opening statement in the mirror every morning. Your Honor, my client, Ryan Caldwell, gave of his life to this marriage. Sloan paused for effect. He put his ambitions aside. He managed the household. He created the stability that allowed Dr. Ellis to pursue her medical career without distraction. Sloan placed a folder on the edge of the judge's bench. Inside, you will find financial records showing that Mr. Caldwell covered household expenses during Dr. Ellis's residency. Groceries, utilities, car insurance. While she was building her career, he was keeping the lights on. He turned slightly toward Kendra, not enough to look at her, just enough to make sure the judge noticed. She would not be where she is today without my client's sacrifices. And now, after everything he gave, she wants to walk away and leave him with nothing. That is not a partnership. That is abandonment. Diane Foster did not react. She wrote something on her notepad, a single word. She underlined it twice. Judge Moore nodded. Thank you, Mr. Sloan. Mr. Caldwell, you may take the stand. Ryan stood up slowly. He adjusted his tie, ran a hand through his hair, then walked to the witness stand with the posture of a man who believed every room he entered was lucky to have him. He sat down, took a breath, and began performing. Your Honor, I just want to say this has been the hardest period of my life. His voice cracked slightly, practiced. I loved my wife. I gave her everything I had. I supported her through medical school, through residency, through those long weeks when she was never home. He paused, looked down at his hands. I sacrificed my own career growth because I believed in hers. I handled the house. I handled the bills. I made sure she had a home to come back to every night. Another pause, a slow exhale. And then one day, she just decided I was not enough anymore. He shook his head. The picture of a wounded man, the performance of a lifetime. Sloan stepped in with soft, rehearsed questions. Did you ever feel neglected during the marriage? All the time, Ryan said quietly. She was always at the hospital, always working. I would cook dinner and eat alone. I would go to bed alone. After a while, I started to wonder if I even mattered. And when you raised these concerns with her? She told me I was being dramatic. Ryan's jaw tightened. She said I should be grateful she was providing for us, like I was some kind of charity case. In the gallery, Derek Ellis shifted in his seat. His jaw clenched. He had heard Kendra's side of this story. Every word Ryan said was a mirror image. Flipped, distorted, reversed. Kendra sat still. Her pen rested on the table. She did not write. She did not react. She had already lived through every lie he was telling. Hearing them again under oath did not make them more true. It just made them louder. Judge Moore made notes. Her face gave nothing away. Then Diane Foster stood up. Mr. Caldwell, she said calmly, you testified that you covered household expenses during your wife's residency Is that correct? Yes. And you characterized this as a significant financial sacrifice. It was. Foster opened a folder. I would like to enter Exhibit D into the record, Your Honor. These are complete bank statements from a joint account held by Mr. Caldwell and Dr. Ellis. Mr. Caldwell, can you tell me who deposited the money into this account on the first of every month during your wife's residency? Ryan glanced at the paper. That was a shared arrangement. The deposits came from Dr. Ellis's residency stipend. She deposited her entire paycheck into this joint account. You used that money to pay the bills you just described as your sacrifice. Is that not correct? Ryan's smile faded. She still needed someone to manage it. Manage it? Foster repeated the words like she was tasting something sour. Let us move to Exhibit E. She placed a new stack of papers on the stand. These are mortgage records for the marital home. The home is located in McLean, Virginia, valued at $1.2 million. Mr. Caldwell, whose name is on the mortgage? Silence. Mr. Caldwell? Hers. And who made every single monthly payment? She did. But Exhibit F vehicle registrations, a BMW X5 and an Audi A6, both registered to Dr. Kendra Ellis, both paid in full by Dr. Ellis. Mr. Caldwell, do you own a vehicle in your name? Ryan's neck turned red. I drive the Audi. You drive it. You do not own it. Foster let that distinction breathe. Exhibit G investment portfolio statements. Total value $680,000. Funded entirely by surgical bonuses earned by Dr. Ellis. Mr. Caldwell, did you contribute any amount at all to this portfolio? I supported her emotionally. That has value too. I am asking about financial contributions, Mr. Caldwell. No. Foster closed her folder, opened another one. Now I would like to discuss the nature of that emotional support. She pulled out a printed sheet. I am entering Exhibit H, a series of text messages sent from your phone to Dr. Ellis. Ryan sat up straighter. His fingers gripped the armrest. Foster read the first message aloud. You think that degree makes you better than me? You are still just a girl from Southeast. The courtroom was silent. Nobody respects you. They just feel sorry for you. Ryan's jaw tightened. He looked at Sloan. Sloan did not look back. Your mother is the only reason anyone takes you seriously. Without her, you are nothing. Foster set the paper down, picked up a small USB drive. Your Honor, I would also like to enter Exhibit 1, an audio recording of a voicemail left by Mr. Caldwell. She pressed play. The courtroom speakers crackled. Ryan's voice filled the room, slurred, loud, unmistakable. You would be nothing without my last name. Nothing. You hear me? You should be thanking me every day for making you somebody. The recording ended. The silence that followed was heavier than anything he had said. Kendra still had not moved. Her pen sat untouched. Her eyes stayed forward. But her brother Derek was gripping his knees so hard his knuckles had turned pale. Foster stepped closer to the stand. Mr. Caldwell, you testified that you supported your wife emotionally. Do these messages represent the kind of emotional support you were referring to? Ryan's face flushed red. His composure cracked. She is twisting everything. She always does this. His voice rose sharply. He leaned forward in the chair. She plays the victim. That is what they do. They. The word dropped like a stone into still water. Every person in that courtroom heard it. The judge, the attorneys, the bailiff, the gallery. They. Judge Moore's pen stopped moving. She looked up slowly. Mr. Caldwell, her voice was ice, you will address this court with respect. Do I make myself clear? Sloan was already leaning over, whispering urgently in Ryan's ear. Ryan exhaled, smoothed his tie, forced a smile that looked like it hurt. My apologies, Your Honor. I am just emotional. This has been very difficult for me. Judge Moore stared at him for several seconds before she looked back down at her notes. In the gallery, the court sketch artist was drawing fast. The court reporter's fingers had not stopped. Every word was on the record, and Kendra Ellis still sat perfectly still. Not because she was weak, not because she had nothing to say. Because she knew what was coming, and it had not even started yet. Judge Moore called Claire Caldwell to the stand. Ryan's mother rose from the second row of the gallery. She smoothed her cream-colored blazer, touched the pearl necklace at her throat, and walked to the witness stand with her chin tilted slightly upward. The posture of a woman who had never been questioned about anything in her life. She sat down, crossed her ankles, folded her hands in her lap, and smiled at the judge the way you smile at a neighbor across the fence. Sloan approached her gently. "Mrs. Caldwell, can you describe your son's character during his marriage?" "Ryan is a good man." Claire's voice was warm, rehearsed. "He was a devoted husband. He tried so hard to make that marriage work. I watched him bend over backwards for that woman." That woman, not Kendra, not Dr. Ellis. That woman. "And how would you describe your relationship with Dr. Ellis?" Claire tilted her head. "I tried, I really did. But she was not quite the right fit for our family. I always worried the cultural differences would be too much." Sloan nodded like this was a perfectly reasonable thing to say. Diane Foster was already on her feet. "Mrs. Caldwell, you mentioned cultural differences. Could you be more specific about what you mean?" Claire blinked. "I just mean lifestyle, upbringing, the way she was raised versus the way Ryan was raised. You know?" "I do not know, actually. That is why I am asking." Claire's smile tightened. "We come from different worlds. That is all I meant. It is not a criticism, it is just a fact." Foster nodded slowly, then opened a folder. "Mrs. Caldwell, I would like to read a text message you sent to your son. This has been entered as Exhibit J." Claire's smile vanished. Foster read it aloud. Slowly, every word clear. "I told you not to marry outside your kind. Now look at the mess." The courtroom went dead quiet. Not a shuffle, not a cough. Even the air conditioning seemed to pause. Claire's face was drained of color. Her fingers tightened around each other in her lap. That was taken out of context. What context would make that statement acceptable, Mrs. Caldwell? "I was upset. Ryan had called me crying. I was just being a mother. A mother who told her son not to marry outside his kind. That is not what I—" "Those are your words, Mrs. Caldwell. Sent from your phone to your son. Is there another way to read them?" Claire opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. Nothing came out. Judge Moore's expression had turned to stone. She wrote something on her notepad, underlined it, wrote something else. "No further questions?" Foster said. Claire stepped down from the stand. She did not look at anyone. She walked back to her seat in the gallery with her eyes fixed on the floor. Her pearls caught the fluorescent light as she sat down. Her hands were shaking. Ryan watched his mother return to her seat. His face had changed. The performance was gone. The rehearsed grief, the wounded husband act, all of it had evaporated. What was left was something raw, something ugly. He leaned over to Sloan and muttered loud enough for the first two rows to hear. "This is a joke. She is going to take everything I built." Sloan whispered back sharply, "Keep your voice down, now." But Ryan was past listening. Foster stood again. "Your Honor, I would like to present the final financial summary, Exhibit K." She distributed packets to the judge and both attorneys. Then she walked to the center of the room. Over the course of this marriage, Dr. Ellis earned a combined gross income of approximately $1.8 million. Mr. Caldwell earned approximately $280,000 during the same period. Dr. Ellis paid the mortgage in full. She paid both car payments in full. She funded the entire investment portfolio. She covered medical insurance, property taxes, and home maintenance. Foster paused. Let the numbers sit. Mr. Caldwell's financial contribution to the household totaled less than 9% of the couple's combined income, and the expenses he did cover, groceries, utilities, minor household items, were paid from a joint account funded primarily by Dr. Ellis's deposits. She turned to Ryan. Mr. Caldwell's claim that he built anything in this marriage is not supported by a single document in this record. Ryan's face went scarlet. His chest rose and fell. His hands gripped the edge of the table. Sloane put a hand on his shoulder. "Do not," he whispered. Judge Moore looked at Ryan. "Mr. Caldwell, before I begin deliberation, do you have anything you would like to add?" That was a mistake. Or maybe it was exactly what the moment needed. Ryan stood up. Sloane grabbed his arm. "Sit down, Ryan. Sit down." Ryan pulled free. He was shaking, not from sadness, from rage. The kind of rage that comes when a man who has always believed he was above everyone else suddenly realizes the room does not agree. "This whole system is rigged," his voice cracked. "She gets everything because she is—" He stopped himself, but only for a second. Then he turned, looked directly at Kendra, and let it all out. "You are worthless trash, Kendra. You hear me? Worthless. Trash." He slammed his palm on the table. The sound echoed like a gunshot. "You were nothing before me. That fancy degree does not change what you are. You want to play the strong black woman? Fine. Play it, but we both know the truth." The gallery erupted, gasps. A woman in the back row stood up. Derek Ellis rose to his feet, fists clenched at his sides. The bailiff stepped forward with one hand on his belt. Ryan still was not done. "And your mother?" He pointed toward the empty seat in the front row. "That self-righteous woman. She poisoned you against me from day one. She looked at me like I was beneath her, like I was not good enough for her precious daughter." He laughed, a short, bitter sound. "A judge. Big deal. She is just another—" Judge Moore's voice cut through the room like a blade. Her gavel came down hard. "You are in contempt of this court. Sit down immediately, or you will be removed in handcuffs. Do I make myself absolutely clear?" Sloane physically pushed Ryan into his chair, both hands on his shoulders, pressing down, whispering something fast and furious into his ear. Ryan sat, but his chest was still heaving. His eyes were still locked on Kendra, his lip curled. The courtroom was silent, the kind of silence that feels louder than any scream. The court reporter's hands trembled above the keys. The sketch artist's pencil had snapped. The bailiff stood 2 steps closer than he had been a moment ago, and Kendra Ellis had not moved. Not 1 inch. Her back was straight, her hands were folded. Her eyes were glassy, but steady. She exhaled slowly through her nose, one long, controlled breath. She had heard worse from him. Behind closed doors, in whispered insults over dinner, in voicemails at midnight. This was just the first time he had said it where the world could hear. All right, I have to stop right here because, wow. This man really just said that in open court on the record. His lawyer is literally wrestling him back into the chair, and he is still talking? "Sir, please, I cannot even breathe right now." Judge Moore called a recess. Her voice was calm, but her jaw was tight. She stood and disappeared through the door behind the bench without looking back. The room exhaled. People in the gallery whispered. Some shook their heads. One older man in a gray suit stood up and walked out muttering something under his breath. A young woman in the back row had her hand over her heart. Kendra rose slowly. She picked up her folder, tucked it under her arm, and walked out of the courtroom into the hallway without a word. Derek followed her. He didn't say anything at first. He just walked beside her. Then he put one hand on her shoulder, a steady hand. The hand of a man who had carried a rifle through 3 deployments and still believed the hardest battles happen at home. Kendra leaned against the wall, closed her eyes, and for the first time all morning, she let out one long, shaking breath, the kind of breath that carries everything you have been holding. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. She pulled it out. One new message from Mom. "I am on my way." Kendra stared at the screen. Her thumb hovered over the keyboard. She typed back slowly. "Mom, you do not have to—" 3 dots appeared. Then, "I am already in the parking lot." Kendra looked at Derek. He looked at her phone, then back at her. Neither of them said a word. But something shifted in Kendra's eyes. Something quiet. Something that looked a lot like the moment before a storm breaks. She put her phone away, straightened her blazer, and walked back toward the courtroom door. Court reconvened. The gallery filed back in, chairs scraped, whispers faded. The bailiff called the room to order. Judge Moore returned to the bench. Her face was unreadable. Ryan sat with his arms crossed. He stared at the table in front of him. Sloane had stopped whispering to him. There was nothing left to say. Kendra took her seat. She set her folder down, folded her hands. Same posture, same stillness. But something was different now. There was a steadiness in her shoulders that had not been there before. Something settled, something ready. Judge Moore opened her mouth to speak. And then the doors opened. Not fast, not dramatic. Just a slow, deliberate push. Both doors at the same time. Every head in the courtroom turned. A woman stepped through. She was tall, silver-haired, dressed in a charcoal suit with a silk scarf folded at the collar. Her shoes clicked against the tile floor, steady, unhurried, precise. Each step carried the same rhythm, the rhythm of a woman who had walked into rooms like this for 30 years and never once needed permission. Judge Gloria Ellis. She did not scan the room. She did not search for a seat. She walked straight down the center aisle with her eyes forward, her chin level, her back as straight as a cathedral wall. The bailiff saw her first. His posture changed instantly. Shoulders back, chin up. He gave a small nod, the kind of nod that is not taught. It is earned. A woman in the gallery leaned to her husband. "Who is that?" He shook his head, but he sat up straighter too. Everyone did. The room shifted without anyone deciding to shift. The air changed weight. Judge Moore looked up from the bench. Her pen stopped moving. Her eyes widened just slightly. Just enough. She knew exactly who had just entered her courtroom. Gloria reached the front row of the gallery, the seat that had been empty all morning. She turned, sat down, smoothed her jacket once, folded her hands in her lap. Then she looked at Kendra. It was not a grand gesture. No wave, no smile, no words. Just a mother looking at her daughter. A single, quiet nod. "I am here." Kendra's chin dipped barely a centimeter. Her eyes glistened for half a second. Then she was still there again. On the other side of the aisle, Sloane leaned toward Ryan. "Who is that?" Ryan muttered. He glanced over his shoulder at the silver-haired woman in the front row. "That is her mother, the one I was just talking about." Sloane's face went white. Not pale, white. Like every drop of blood had left his body at once. He grabbed Ryan's arm hard. "That is Judge Gloria Ellis, D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals. She is one of the most senior federal judges in the country." Ryan blinked. "So?" "She is just a—" "She was on the short list for the Supreme Court. Twice." The word "twice" landed on Ryan like a physical weight. His mouth opened. Nothing came out. He turned slowly and looked at Gloria Ellis again. She was already looking at him. Not glaring, not scowling, not angry. She simply looked at him, the way a woman looks at something small, something she has seen 1,000 times before, something that does not surprise her and never will. 30 years of staring down corrupt officials, corporate lawyers, hardened criminals who had done things Ryan could not imagine. She had looked at all of them with this same face. Patient, unshakable, absolute. Ryan turned back around. His legs started bouncing. He stared at the table. He could not look up. The room had changed. Everyone felt it. The bailiff felt it. The court reporter felt it. The sketch artist felt it. Even the fluorescent lights seemed to buzz at a different frequency. Judge Moore cleared her throat. Before the recess, the court heard testimony from both parties and reviewed all submitted exhibits. Her voice was precise now, sharpened. I also observed the respondent's conduct in this courtroom today, which has been entered into the record in full. She paused, looked at Ryan. Mr. Caldwell, I want to be very clear. This court has a complete record of every word you spoke today. Your statements, your tone, and your behavior will be weighed accordingly in my ruling. Ryan did not move, did not nod, did not breathe. Gloria Ellis sat perfectly still, hands folded, eyes forward. She did not need to speak. She did not need to intervene. She did not need to do anything at all. She was there, and that was enough. Judge Moore delivered her ruling without hesitation. After reviewing all evidence, testimony, and financial documentation submitted by both parties, this court finds the following. She looked directly at Ryan. Mr. Caldwell's claim to equitable distribution is denied. The evidence overwhelmingly demonstrates that Dr. Ellis was the sole meaningful financial contributor to this marriage. The mortgage, vehicle payments, investment accounts, and the vast majority of household expenses were paid entirely by Dr. Ellis. Ryan's mouth opened slightly. Sloan placed a hand on his arm. Ryan did not even notice. Mr. Caldwell is awarded his personal belongings only. Dr. Ellis retains full ownership of the marital home, both vehicles, and all investment accounts. Judge Moore flipped a page. Additionally, this court finds Mr. Caldwell in contempt for his conduct during today's proceedings. He is fined $5,000 and warned that any further disruption in this courtroom or in any communication with Dr. Ellis will result in immediate incarceration. She removed her glasses, set them on the bench, and said the last part slowly. The language used by the respondent today was not merely disrespectful, it was dehumanizing. This court does not tolerate racial animus in any form. Mr. Caldwell, your words are on the record. They will follow you. The gavel came down. Once. Final. Ryan sat frozen. His mouth moved, but nothing came out. He looked at Sloan. Sloan was already closing his briefcase. In the front row, Gloria Ellis did not smile, did not nod, did not move. She simply watched justice do what justice does when it is given the truth. The courtroom emptied slowly. People stood in small clusters, whispering. The sketch artist tore off her page and started a new one. The bailiff held the door open with the expression of a man who had just witnessed something he would talk about for years. Kendra walked into the hallway. Derek was beside her. Neither spoke. They did not need to. Then footsteps, fast ones. Kendra, wait. Ryan jogged up behind her. His tie was loosened. His hair was out of place. His eyes were red and darting. Everything about him had changed. The arrogance was gone. What replaced it was something smaller, desperate. Listen to me. I did not mean it. His voice cracked. I was angry. You know how I get when I'm angry. I say things I do not mean. Can we just talk about this, please? Kendra stopped walking. She turned around slowly, looked at him, really looked at him, maybe for the first time. You said exactly what you meant. Her voice was quiet, steady. For the first time, you told the truth. She turned and walked away. Derek stepped between them. He did not say a word. He did not need to. He was 6'2", 220 pounds, and the look on his face said everything. Ryan did not follow. Later, Ryan stood in the parking lot with Sloan. "So what is next?" Ryan asked. "We appeal, right? We can—" "There is no we." Sloan set his briefcase on the hood of his car. "I am withdrawing as your counsel, Ryan." "You cannot do that. You are my attorney." "I was your attorney. Past tense." Sloan opened his car door. "You made my job impossible in there, and frankly, what you said was indefensible. I will not be associated with it." He got in, started the engine, drove away without looking back. Ryan stood alone in the parking lot. The sun was directly overhead. His shadow was a small dark shape at his feet. A minute later, Claire Caldwell walked out of the courthouse. Ryan turned to her, waiting for comfort, waiting for his mother to tell him it would be okay. "I told you to keep your temper." Claire's voice was cold, flat. "I told you, Ryan, over and over, and you could not hold it together for one single hearing." "Mom." "Now look at what you have done to this family's name." She was not sorry for what he said. She was sorry he said it where people could hear. She walked to her car, got in, drove away. Ryan stood alone. Jacket wrinkled, tie crooked, no lawyer, no mother, no wife. The courthouse door behind him closed with a heavy click. The court transcript, every word of it was public record. A clerk who had been in the courtroom mentioned it to a colleague. The colleague mentioned it to a friend. The friend was a journalist. Reporter Natalie Adams from a Northern Virginia news outlet had the full transcript on her desk. Ryan's employer, a regional insurance firm where he worked as a mid-level claims adjuster, received 3 phone calls asking if they were aware of what their employee had said in open court. He was placed on administrative leave, effective immediately. The dominoes had started falling, and not a single one was going to stop. Natalie Adams published her article. The headline read, "Husband's Racist Tirade in Fairfax Court Goes Viral After Federal Judge Mother-in-Law Walks In." The article was thorough. It included the full context of the divorce proceedings, Kendra's career, the financial evidence, Ryan's outburst, quoted directly from the court transcript. And the moment Judge Gloria Ellis walked through those doors, the article had been shared. It was everywhere. Cable news picked it up first, then national papers, then social media took it and ran. Clips of the courthouse exterior, reporters outside, people reacting as they left, circulated on every platform. Someone in the gallery had sketched Ryan mid-outburst, finger pointed, face twisted. That sketch became the image everyone shared. The hashtag started small. A few accounts, a few retweets, then it caught fire. Hashtag Justice for Kendra. It trended. Legal commentators appeared on morning shows and evening panels. They dissected Ryan's language. They broke down the court transcript line by line. One former federal prosecutor said on camera, "What Mr. Caldwell said was not just offensive. It was a textbook example of racial animus used to dehumanize a spouse during litigation. Any judge in the country would have held him in contempt." Another analyst pointed to the text messages entered as evidence. The ones where Ryan called Kendra just a girl from Southeast and told her she would be nothing without his last name. "This was not a one-time outburst," she said. "This was a pattern. The courtroom was just the first time. He could not hide it." Then the former colleagues started talking. One by one, people who had worked alongside Ryan at the insurance firm came forward. They spoke anonymously at first, then some used their names. A former co-worker told Natalie Adams that Ryan routinely made jokes about black clients. He called their claims suspicious more often than white clients with identical paperwork. He once said in a team meeting that certain neighborhoods were not worth insuring. When a black supervisor was promoted above him, Ryan told a colleague, "This place is going downhill." The insurance company had no choice. They released a statement that afternoon, 3 sentences, corporate font, company letterhead. We do not tolerate hate speech or discriminatory behavior of any kind. Following a thorough internal review, Mr. Ryan Caldwell's employment has been terminated, effective immediately. We are committed to fostering an inclusive workplace for all employees and clients. Ryan read the statement on his phone while sitting in his mother's guest bedroom. He had moved back in after the hearing. He had nowhere else to go. But losing his job was just the beginning. Diane Foster filed a civil suit. Emotional distress. Defamation. The filing cited Ryan's courtroom outburst, the text messages, the voicemails, and the sustained pattern of racial abuse throughout the marriage. The text messages were already public. The voicemail, the one where Ryan slurred that Kendra would be nothing without his last name, was played on 2 national news broadcasts. Legal experts called it devastating. Ryan needed a lawyer. He called 4 firms. The first said they had a conflict of interest. The second said they were not taking new clients. The third never called back. The fourth was honest. Mr. Caldwell, I read the transcript. I listened to the voicemail. I'm going to be straightforward with you. There is not a firm in Northern Virginia that wants to be the face of your defense right now. He eventually found representation, a solo practitioner named Alan Burke, who worked out of a small office above a dry cleaner in Manassas. Burke was competent, quiet. He reviewed the case and gave Ryan one piece of advice. Settle quickly before this gets worse. Ryan resisted at first. I'm not giving her another dime. Burke set the file down. Ryan, you called your wife worthless trash in front of a judge. You referenced her race. It is on the record. It is on the news. It is on the internet forever. If this goes to trial, a jury will see every text you sent, hear every voicemail you left, and watch you sit in that chair while your own words play on a speaker. You will lose, and it will cost you everything you have left. Ryan settled. The terms were not gentle. A significant financial payment to Kendra, essentially returning any remaining shared assets, plus damages for emotional distress, court-mandated anger management, a racial sensitivity program, 12 months minimum for both, and a restraining order. No contact with Kendra, no contact with her family, no contact with her workplace, no approaching within 500 feet. Violation meant arrest. No warnings, no second chances. Ryan signed the papers in Burke's office. He did not speak. He signed each page, stood up, and walked out. Through all of this, Judge Gloria Ellis said nothing publicly, no interviews, no statements, no press conferences, not a single quote attributed to her in any article. Reporters called her office. Her clerk responded with the same line every time. Judge Ellis does not comment on personal family matters. She did not need to comment. Her presence in that courtroom had already said everything. Legal blogs wrote about the moment. Judicial commentators analyzed it from every angle. One professor at Georgetown Law wrote an op-ed that captured it perfectly. Judge Ellis did not need to say a word. She did not intervene. She did not pull rank. She sat in the gallery like any other mother and let the system do its work. And in doing so, she reminded everyone in that courtroom and everyone watching from the outside that justice is not just a concept written in textbooks. It is a living, breathing institution. And sometimes it shows up wearing a charcoal suit. Kendra Ellis did what she had always done. She worked. Georgetown University Hospital featured her in their annual report. A medical journal published a profile on her pioneering techniques in pediatric cardiac surgery. She was invited to speak at Howard University's commencement, her alma mater. She stood at the podium in a black gown. She did not mention Ryan. She did not mention the divorce. She did not mention the courtroom. She talked about resilience, about self-worth, about the difference between what people call you and what you answer to. Someone will try to define you, she told the graduates. They will use words designed to make you small. Let them talk. Your job is not to argue with small people. Your job is to keep building something they could never tear down. The auditorium stood. Every single person. Kendra smiled, looked down at the front row. Her mother sat there, hands folded, eyes shining. The same quiet nod, I am here. So, where are they now? Kendra Ellis was promoted to Chief of Pediatric Surgery at Georgetown University Hospital. She bought a townhouse in Alexandria, her name on the deed, her money on the check, her choice on every wall, every room, every detail. No one else's opinion was required. She started a mentorship foundation for young Black women pursuing careers in STEM and medicine. She named it Ellis Forward. The first class had 14 mentees. The second class had 40. There was a wait list. She never spoke publicly about the divorce, not once. Reporters asked, podcast hosts asked. She declined every time. Her work spoke for her. It always had. Judge Gloria Ellis continued serving on the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals. She handled cases the way she always had, with precision, fairness, and a silence that carried more weight than most people's speeches. At a private family dinner after the dust had settled, Gloria set her fork down and looked at her daughter across the table. "I did not walk into that courtroom as a judge," she said. "I walked in as your mother." She paused. "But I am proud that both of those women saw justice done that day." Kendra reached across the table and held her mother's hand. Neither of them said anything else. They did not need to. Derek Ellis stayed close. He checked in on Kendra every Sunday. Phone call, never missed one. He later told a reporter off the record, "My sister did not need saving, she needed witnesses, and that courtroom gave her plenty." Diane Foster went on to handle several high-profile divorce cases involving domestic abuse and racial discrimination. She credited the Caldwell case with changing how courts treat verbal abuse when it is racially motivated. "Before this case, too many judges dismissed racial insults as emotional outbursts," she said. "After this case, that excuse does not fly anymore." And Ryan Caldwell? He lost his career, his savings, his social standing, his reputation. He completed the anger management program. He failed the racial sensitivity course on his first attempt, passed on his second, barely. He moved into his mother's spare bedroom in a small town outside Richmond. He did not remarry. He did not find new employment in the insurance industry. His name was the first result on every search engine, attached permanently to the transcript, the articles, and that sketch of him pointing across a courtroom with rage on his face. Claire Caldwell stopped attending her garden club. She told neighbors she was taking a break. The neighbors knew why. Everyone in town had read the article. Everyone had seen her text message. "Do not marry outside your kind." Those 5 words followed her the way Ryan's followed him. Okay, real talk. This story, made up. Fiction. But while you were listening, be honest, you were not thinking, "Nah, this is fake." You were thinking about somebody you know. Somebody who has been called worthless. And that part? That is way too real. So, let me ask you something. If you were sitting in that courtroom gallery, if you heard someone say those words to another human being right in front of a judge, right in front of everybody, would you have stayed silent? Or would you have stood up? Drop your answer in the comments. I want to hear it. And if this story hit you somewhere real, if it made you feel something, do me a favor. Hit that like button. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you have not already, subscribe. Because we have got more stories like this coming. And trust me, you do not want to miss what is next. One last thing. Your worth is not decided by the person standing across from you in a courtroom. It is not measured by someone else's anger or ignorance or fear. Your worth was settled long before they ever opened their mouth. Do not let anyone rewrite that story for you.